Now, speaking of KK, as you know, the ASIO boss made it very clear at the end of last week that someone from overseas is trying to buy their way into the Australian political system. Put simply, they want to hijack the system without even the politicians or the parties knowing about it. Now, that saw the Defence Minister arc up and make it very clear that he thought it was China and backing the Labor Party.
We now see evidence, Mr Speaker, that the Chinese Communist Party, the Chinese government, has also made a decision about who they're going to back in the next federal election, Mr Speaker. Now, that's open. That is obvious, Mr Speaker.
Now, of course, because evil, crazy Peter Dutton said something, the ghost got a free run on taxpayer media.
You know, we should not be turning the debate about China, the debate about national security into some kind of reds under the bed scare. I mean, the proposition that Anthony Albanese is, you know, under the influence of the Chinese Communist Party is ludicrous. I mean, you may as well accuse him of being a Martian.
Now, of course, what was he basing all of that on? Well, reporting from the ABC that claimed it was Russia. You know, just like evil Donald Trump, apparently it was Russia. Only problem is, multiple other media reports says that's garbage. It was exactly what you thought it was, China. The same people who, remember, had already stolen the blueprints to the ASIO headquarters in Canberra, the very building that was able to expose what China was trying to do. Now, China have made it clear that if nothing else, they want this government gone. So if the logic was that they wanted Trump and therefore didn't like Hillary, then the logic has to be exactly the same when it comes to the federal election. But amazingly here, despite the fact that we now know it yet again to be China, despite the fact that Anthony Albanese himself has said that the heart of the relationship between Australia and the United States shouldn't be China, shouldn't be Western Valleys, it should be climate change. Remember, he wrote that in the Australian newspaper. Again, we go back to the position of where the Prime Minister is on this matter.
Now, no one doubts my resolve when it comes up to standing up to those who are going to have a crack at this country. I always put Australia first. I never take an each-way bet on national security.
But speaking of KK, now this is what Kristina Keneally, remember, who wants to be in charge of our borders, wants to be around the cabinet table and take a national security position, said again in her interview with Taxpayer TV Today.
Well, first, let's understand something here. This is a desperate government, so desperate to distract from its own incompetence that it is now weaponizing national security. Weaponizing national security in the lead up to an election and weaponizing it in the context of a Liberal leadership contest.
What Liberal leadership contest? But says the Sheila who, when not as a premier, not as an unsuccessful candidate in Bennelong, not as a parachuted person into the Senate, but a person who is wanting to get her spot in the lower house. Just last year, Kristina Keneally was openly taking photos, and they're still on her Twitter feed, from Chinese propagandists. Remember the two blokes from United Front? These are people who believe that Taiwan is part of China. What do you think their position may be if somebody had a vote around the cabinet table, a national security portfolio? But to bring this up, apparently, is lowball politics. She is so unashamed of this connection that it is still up online. So they can say whatever they want, and 3/4, if not 4/5 of the media will barrel on. But I have a memory that goes deeper than the year 2000 in this country, which means I remember the union riots out the front of the joint in 1996. I have a memory that doesn't just last 2 minutes ago on Twitter. I remember what you did last year, KK. Now, Anthony Albanese, if he wants to put her front and centre, play with puppies like Bill Shorten did, you might get the same result. Because, of course, insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expect a slightly different result.